The spotlight hits Dean Martin's face. August 1966. The Sands Casino stage. Every major player in the Las Vegas underworld sits within 20 feet of him. Sam Giancana. 3 rows back. Johnny Rosselli. Stage left. Anthony Spilatro. At the bar. These men don't just control Vegas, they are Vegas. They own the dealers. The pit bosses. The entertainers. Everyone bends. Everyone. Dean stops mid-verse. The orchestra freezes. 800 people hold their breath. He's been told what to say. How to act. Who to acknowledge. One night. One set of instructions from men who don't give second chances. Instead, he looks directly at Giancana. And breaks every rule they gave him. What happens next becomes the most dangerous 20 minutes in Vegas history. Las Vegas, 1966. The city runs on one currency, control. Not money. Control. The Italian mob families own the casinos, skim the profits, and decide who performs, who wins, who breathes easy. Frank Sinatra learned this the hard way. Sammy Davis Jr. learned it faster. The Rat Pack, that untouchable group of entertainers who defined cool, they all understood the invisible lines you never cross. Dean Martin was different. Born Dino Paul Crocetti in Steubenville, Ohio, he grew up around made men. He spoke Italian with neighborhood capos. He ran numbers as a teenager. He knew the life. Knew the language. Knew the consequences. When he hit Hollywood and became one of the biggest stars on the planet, movies, records, television, he never forgot where he came from. But he also never forgot who he was. The mob respected him. Sinatra was their pet. Sammy was their token. Dean? Dean was the one they genuinely liked. The one they trusted. Which made what happened that night even more shocking. Because when you break trust with men like Sam Giancana, you don't get a warning. You get a message. The kind delivered in the desert. The trouble starts 3 weeks earlier. Dean Martin owns a piece of the Sands. Not much, 3%, but enough to make him more than hired talent. Enough to give him a seat at certain tables. And in August 1966, those tables are getting crowded. Carl Cohen runs the Sands. Old-school casino man. Tough. Fair. Connected. He reports to lawyers who report to accountants who report to Chicago. Chicago means Giancana. Giancana means you do what you're told. Frank Sinatra doesn't see it that way. Frank's been on a 3-week bender. Losing huge at the tables. Running up credit. Demanding special treatment. The bosses back east are getting nervous. Frank's not just any entertainer, he's the crown jewel. But even crown jewels have limits. Carl Cohen receives a call. The message is clear, rein him in. No more credit. No more special treatment. Not even for Sinatra. Dean watches this unfold from the sides. He sees Frank spiral. Sees the casino cut him off. Sees Frank's rage build like a pressure cooker with a jammed valve. Then comes the explosion. Frank assaults Carl Cohen in the casino restaurant. Fists. Chairs. Chaos. Cohen fights back, knocks out 2 of Frank's teeth. The whole thing becomes front-page news. The mob is furious. Not at Cohen. At Frank. You don't make them look weak. You don't embarrass the families. Frank leaves Vegas that night. Tail between his legs. Humiliated. Banned from the Sands. The Rat Pack is finished. Shows are cancelled. The remaining performances, Dean's performances, are suddenly very complicated. Because Dean's still scheduled. 5 nights at the Sands. Sold out. The mob needs those shows to happen. Needs the money. Needs the optics. But they also need Dean to send a message. 2 days before his first show, Dean gets a visit. Not a phone call. A visit. Johnny Rosselli walks into Dean's dressing room at NBC Studios in Burbank. Rosselli's smooth. Sophisticated. Dangerous as a viper in a tailored suit. He sits down. Doesn't threaten. Doesn't raise his voice. Your shows at the Sands, Rosselli says. They're important. Dean nods. Says nothing. Frank made a mistake. A big one. People back home are disappointed. Yeah, I heard. Your shows, they're a chance to reset things. Show everyone Vegas is still Vegas. Still classy. Still under control. Dean sips his drink. Waits. We need you to make a statement. On stage. Nothing big. Just acknowledge the right people. Thank Carl Cohen by name. Make it clear that management, our management, runs a tight ship. That nobody's bigger than the house. There it is. Dean's being asked to publicly humiliate his best friend. To throw Frank under the bus in front of 800 people and do it with a smile. It's not a request. It's an order wrapped in velvet. I'll think about it, Dean says. Rosselli's eyes go cold. Dean. Don't think. Do. After Rosselli leaves, Dean sits alone for an hour. He could comply. Say the words. Keep the peace. He's done it before, played the game, bent when needed. Every smart entertainer in Vegas does. It's survival. But something about this sits wrong. Frank's an idiot sometimes. Hot-headed. Self-destructive. But he's also the guy who stood up for Sammy when hotels wouldn't let him through the front door. The guy who torpedoed his own career to fight the blacklist. Loyalty meant everything to Frank. And loyalty meant everything to Dean. What happens next changes everything. Opening night. August 23, 1966. The Sands showroom is packed. Every seat filled. The air thick with cigarette smoke and expensive perfume. This isn't just another Dean Martin show, this is Vegas theater. Everyone knows about Frank. Everyone knows about the fallout. And everyone knows Dean's supposed to say something. Sam Giancana sits 3 rows back. Center section. He's flanked by 2 associates whose names don't appear in any directory. Johnny Rosselli is stage left, martini in hand, eyes locked on the stage. Anthony, the Ant Spilatro, the most violent enforcer in Vegas, leans against the bar in the back. They're not here for the music. They're here to make sure Dean does what he's told. Backstage, Dean's quiet. His piano player, Ken Lane, asks if he's okay. Dean just smiles. That trademark Dean Martin smile, half-drunk, half-dreamer, completely unreadable. He takes one last pull from his cigarette. Stubs it out. "Let's give Em a show," he says. The lights drop. The orchestra swells. Dean walks out to thunderous applause. He's effortlessly cool in a tuxedo that probably costs more than a Cadillac. He waves. Blows a kiss to someone in the front row. Picks up the microphone. "How about that Frank Sinatra, huh?" The room goes silent. Not uncomfortable silent. Nuclear silent. You could hear ice melting in the back row. Giancana's expression doesn't change, but his associate leans in, whispers something. Rosselli's jaw tightens. Every person in that showroom knows Dean just stepped onto a landmine. Dean grins. Wider. "Frank got into a little scuffle here last week. You hear about that?" "Yeah, Carl Cohen knocked his caps off. Front teeth. Gone." Dean mimes teeth flying. The audience doesn't know whether to laugh or run. Now Frank's back in Los Angeles, looking like a hockey player. "I told him, Frank, this is what happens when you try to be tough. Leave the fighting to the Italians who actually know how to throw a punch." A few nervous laughs ripple through the crowd. Giancana isn't laughing. Dean takes a long, deliberate sip of what everyone assumes is whiskey. He lets the silence stretch. Then he puts down the glass and looks directly at the section where Giancana sits. "You know what Frank's problem is? He forgets we're entertainers. We're here to make people happy. Have fun. Sing a little. Dance a little. We're not here to run things. That's for the smart guys." It sounds like compliance. But the way Dean says it, the edge in his voice, the slight smirk, everyone in that room knows he's mocking them. He's saying the words they want while simultaneously making it clear he doesn't mean a single syllable. He's following orders while giving them the finger. The mob guys know it. The audience knows it. And Dean knows they know. Then he goes further. "I want to thank Carl Cohen for running such a tight ship here at the Sands." Pause. Carl's a stand-up guy. Real professional. The kind of guy who'll knock your teeth out if you disrespect him. Another pause. Dean's eyes sweep the room. "But you know what? I like Frank. Frank's my friend. Has been for 20 years. He's a pain in the ass sometimes, most times, but he's my pain in the ass. And I don't care who he pissed off or what he's supposed to have done. When this is over, I'm gonna go visit him in Los Angeles. Bring him a steak. Some ice cream, he can actually eat that now without teeth." The room is frozen. Dean just publicly chose Frank over the mob. In their casino. On their stage. In front of their faces. He's not yelling. Not making a scene. He's doing it with charm and a smile. But there's no mistaking what's happening. This is defiance. The orchestra doesn't know whether to start the next song. Dean's conductor looks panicked. But Dean just waves him off. He's not done. "You know what I learned growing up around guys like the ones in this room?" Dean's voice drops. "Get serious." The drunk playboy persona evaporates. For just a moment, Dino Crocetti from Steubenville is standing there. "I learned that respect goes both ways. You respect me, I respect you. But real respect, the kind that matters, you don't demand it. You don't beat it out of people. You earn it." He lets that land. Frank's an idiot. But he's loyal. And in my book, loyalty's worth more than all the teeth in the world. Then, and this is the moment that becomes legend, Dean raises his glass toward Giancana's section. Not a toast. A challenge. Salute. He drinks. The orchestra crashes into "Ain't That a Kick in the Head." Dean starts singing like nothing happened. Like he didn't just commit career suicide. Like he didn't just spit in the face of the most dangerous men in America. Backstage after the first set, Dean's manager bursts into the dressing room. What the hell was that? Do you have a death wish? Dean lights a cigarette. I said what they wanted. You mocked them. I thanked Carl. I acknowledged management. I did exactly what Johnny asked. Dean. They wanted me to humiliate Frank. I didn't do that. I'm not doing that. If they got a problem with it, they know where to find me. His manager looks sick. They're going to kill you. Dean takes a long drag. Blows smoke toward the ceiling. Then they're gonna have to kill me. But I ain't selling out Frank. Not for them. Not for anyone. The second set that night is even more dangerous. Dean doubles down. Tells more Frank stories. Makes more subtle digs. By the end of the night, he's basically dared the mob to do something about it. And then he walks out the back door. Alone. Into the Vegas night. Nothing happens. Not that night. Not the next day. Not the next week. Dean performs all 5 scheduled shows. Each night, the same faces sit in the same seats. Watching. Waiting. He doesn't back down. Doesn't apologize. Doesn't change a word. By the final show, the tension is unbearable. The staff at the Sands are terrified. Everyone expects violence. It never comes. Why? The answer depends on who you ask. Some say Giancana respected the balls it took. That in a world of cowards and yes-men, Dean's loyalty to Frank reminded them of the old code. The code they'd built their entire world on. You don't rat. You don't break. You stay loyal even when it costs you. Others say it was simpler. Dean was too valuable. He packed rooms. Made money. And unlike Frank, Dean never caused problems. Never made scenes. Never demanded special treatment. He showed up, did the work, and went home. Killing him would have been bad business. But the people closest to Dean tell a different story. Johnny Rosselli allegedly visited Dean one last time. This is unconfirmed, no recordings, no witnesses, but multiple sources over the years have referenced a late-night conversation at Dean's house in Beverly Hills. According to these accounts, Rosselli sat in Dean's living room, poured himself a drink from Dean's bar, and said something like this. You put us in a bad spot. I know. We gave you an out. You didn't take it. Couldn't. Long silence. Why? Because Frank would have done it for me. Rosselli reportedly stared at Dean for a long time. Then he stood up. Walked to the door. Turned back. You're either the bravest man I know or the dumbest. Probably both. Rosselli smiled. A real smile. Rare for a man like him. Sam wanted me to deliver a message. I'm not gonna do that. But I'll tell you this, what you did? That old school shit? That's the kind of thing we used to respect. Before all this business got complicated. Before it became about money and image and politics. He opened the door. You got a pass. This time. Don't ever put us in that position again. Dean nodded. Rosselli left. The story, the real story, spread through Vegas like wildfire. Not the sanitized version the newspapers printed. The truth. That Dean Martin stood on stage in a mob-owned casino and chose his friend over his own safety. That he looked made men in the eye and refused to bend. In the months that followed, something shifted. Dean's career exploded. His television show became the biggest thing on NBC. His album sales skyrocketed. He was offered more money, more shows, more films than he could possibly accept. Part of it was talent. Part of it was timing. But part of it, the part nobody talks about, was respect. Hollywood respected him. Vegas respected him. Even the mob, in their twisted way, respected him. Because in an industry built on fake smiles and hollow loyalty, Dean Martin proved he was real. Frank never forgot it. Years later, in the 1970s, after the Rat Pack had officially dissolved, after the mob lost control of Vegas, after the world moved on, Frank and Dean remained inseparable. At Frank's Madison Square Garden shows, he'd bring Dean out unannounced. The crowd would go insane. And Frank would always say the same thing. This man right here saved my ass when nobody else would. Dean would shrug. Make a joke. Deflect like he always did. But everyone who was there that night in 1966 knew the truth. The Vegas casino bosses knew. The entertainers knew. The wise guys in the back rooms knew. Dean Martin broke every rule. And he got away with it. Not because he was lucky. Not because he was connected. But because when it mattered most, he refused to compromise who he was. In 1995, when Dean Martin passed away, Frank Sinatra was too devastated to attend the funeral. He locked himself in his house for 3 days. Wouldn't see anyone. Wouldn't talk to anyone. When he finally emerged, he told his daughter. He was the best of all of us. The Vegas old-timers, the ones who remember the real Vegas, before corporations and mega resorts, they still tell the story. They'll take you to where the sands used to stand. Show you the spot where the stage was. And they'll tell you about the night Dean Martin looked the mob in the eye and didn't blink. Some call it courage. Some call it stupidity. Dean Martin called it Tuesday. That night at the sands wasn't just about defending Frank Sinatra. It was about something deeper. A line in the sand. A moment when one man decided that some things, loyalty, friendship, integrity, matter more than safety. More than money. More than playing the game everyone else plays. Dean Martin proved you could be cool without being cold. Smooth without being slick. Powerful without being cruel. The Mafia controlled Vegas. They controlled careers. They controlled lives. But they couldn't control Dean Martin. Decades later, his choice still echoes. In a world that demands we compromise, bend, trade pieces of ourselves for security, Dean's refusal stands as a reminder. Some lines you don't cross. Some friends you don't abandon. Even when the whole world tells you to. Especially then. That's not just Vegas legend. That's the truth. Stories like this don't just entertain, they make us think. What would you have done in Dean's position? Protect yourself or stand by your friend? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear a story about real loyalty in a world of fake handshakes, share this with them. These legends deserve to be remembered. Let's make sure they are.